everybody, welcome back to my channel. You're on Room for Rewinds, and today we'll be doing an ending explained on the movie Hypochondriac. Hypochondriac is about a porter's life that dives into chaos as he loses function in his body while also experiencing a physical manifestation of his childhood trauma. I must say, I really like this one. I really enjoyed this movie. I felt like it was different. It's a different type of horror for me, and yeah, I felt like they really portrayed a good, they really showed you in the person of through the eyes of a person that has mental illness how it really feels to have mental illness. And it was a little bit trippy for me, but I really enjoyed it. Without wasting any time, let's get right to it. So the movie starts with a boy named Will, and he hears noises and discovers that his mother is awake. The mother takes him to a motel, mumbling about people coming to get them, and then he strangles him. And then here we can see the next day after school he looks for his mom, and then his father then informs him that his mother has been sent to the mental institution. And then 18 years later, after all of that drama, we meet Will. Now he's a porter, a very talented one, and he's a very nice guy because at work he helped his colleague get through a panic attack. He seems like he got it all together, and like he likes his job. And then when he gets home, he has a loving boyfriend named Luke, and they've been dating for 8 months. The relationship is going very well and they're very happy, and they talk about plans, what's next for their relationship. But next day he gets a package from his mother. We find out that he's been estranged from his mother, so his mother is sending empty DVD boxes and saying they don't belong in her domain. We know now from the scene earlier that the mother was mentally disturbed, and Will hasn't contacted her in about like 18 years or so, yes. And we see Will here falling after picking up a couple of boxes. He had a dizzy spell, and he's busy stretching his arms and being like showing discomfort in a way. And his boyfriend asks, but he brushes it off and says, mind your business. And then he tells his colleague about it, and his colleague says, yo, your boyfriend is has a right to worry. And after seeing his hand, he sees his hand locked up in a certain position, and then he now starts getting dizzy spells and sees this wolf again, and then he falls to the ground. He goes to the doctor's office to get help, googling the symptoms, and sees this weird picture of this dog with the bubbly champagne next to it. And then the doctor says there's absolutely nothing to worry about, but then he says, we don't want you to have muscular disorders and stuff. And so when he gets home, he gets a package from his mother, and they're just books, and his mother is telling him about how she loved to read and that's who she was. And then at the arcade he meets his boyfriend and explains to his boyfriend, like, my mom, there's something wrong with me, but doesn't get into detail. He's very secretive. They go to a cabin and they smoke weed, and then he's tripping, of course, and he's dizzy, and then he sees wolves and he starts running home. And then his boyfriend comforts him and tells him, no, actually you were just being high, actually. And then at the hot tub, lights switch off, and then he has a voice calling him, and it's the wolf again standing there. And then it runs towards him. He gets out of the pool and actually hurts his hand in the process, but it's almost like a dream because he wakes up from it. He wakes up from the pool. And then the boyfriend is very upset because of, if he hurt his hand like that, he can't go to brunch with his mother. Yeah. He goes to the doctor's office, sees the dog again. I'm starting to like this dog. And then as he takes off his search, he sees like scratch marks on his back, but he's hallucinating this. And the doctor tells him not to worry. And then he tells him that, you should be on antipsychotics. And he says, yes, I've been on. The doctor adds on and says it's just stress. He goes to work to ask for a week, and this lady denies him a week off. So it's back to work for him. And then as he's working, he gets, a message, like a voicemail message from his mother, rambling about, so many things. And then after that, he starts getting dizzy again. And then he goes, where they heat and dry clay in that thing, and then somebody's knocking. He opens and he actually sticks his hand inside and sees this creature that he's been seeing, and he burns his hand in the process, but still seeing the wolf creature that has been following him everywhere. And then later on, he meets up with his boyfriend, and then he calls it off. He says, I cannot be with you because I'll destroy you. And his dad picks him up in this nice ass car, and they go to his place. He starts getting dizzy spells as well, getting episode, and then he feels like something is moving in his hand, and he tries to stab it, but then he stops himself. And then when dad gets home, he tells dad, and dad is like, okay, this guy's an asshole, and he doesn't even believe in these things. Like, in therapy, he shares that he's afraid that he's turning into his mother, but if he is going to kill himself. He tells that to the therapist. Shame. And so at dinner with his dad actually says, you used to have a wolf costume, when he asks him. And then he goes to the house to investigate and actually try to jog a little bit of memory. And then he finds his mother had a file on Luke, on conspiracy theories. And then he sits down he watches evidence, of her mother's mental illness. There are home footage that shows that her mother was mentally ill, because at some point, there was one point where the son was begging her to take her medication, and Will actually said to her mother, like, if you don't take your medication, then I'm not going to be your son anymore. And that's the only way that she could comply to that. And then we get this image of this wolf stroking him and slitting his throat, and yeah, he's laughing about it. So I think in this it's almost like he's basking in it, like he's embracing the pain and actually the realization of his trauma. He goes for an MRI, and of course, when the results come back, he is perfectly healthy. But he sees that dog picture again that's been popping up every doctor's appointment, and then the doctor says, you know what, you should try antipsychotics. And then he says, I'm on them. And then the doctor says, give them time to work. And Luke is here helping him out, shaving him, feeding him. And then he starts brawling again, like starts crying hysterically. And then after a failed sexual intercourse encounter, he then listens to Luke sing to him, and then it brings flashbacks of his mother, and he just says, Luke, how can you be working with my mother? You want to destroy me, or something like that. And then he's hysterical, and he punches Luke in the face, and then he has more flashbacks, and it seems like Luke wasn't even there to begin with. So now he goes to the kitchen and then starts cutting at his wounds, and he cuts and he cuts, and he just stands there like naked with blood all over, and he's smirking. And then he wakes up again. When he wakes up, he scans the room, and he's like, okay, he looks like he's okay. But then when he scans the room, his mother is there. And then his mother is like, oh, come my son, let's have coffee. But then informs him that they knew about his illness ever since he was young. He strangles his mother out of rage, and he sits with the wolf, who then, implies that he should kill himself. He asks, does it hurt? He says no, but stabs the wolf instead. And, he has flashbacks about, his life and his happy times. And then he's running away from the wolf, trying to escape the wolf, because the wolf is almost haunting in such a sense. And there are more flashbacks, and he's running down the street, and there are flashbacks of him also being young. And then after that, he goes to Luke for safety, and he's crying and crawling, and he looks a mess. So Luke did the right thing, put him in an institution. In the institution, he's sitting in the corner, but then he just has a conversation with the wolf, and the wolf seems calm. And he's like, I have to get used to you being there. And then a doctor comes in and then informs him about the work that he needs to do to get better, and ask him if he's ready for that. And then he agrees, and then he tells him about the wolf. But when they look, the wolf is gone, and he says, you might have scared him off. Don't think that wolf is scared of anything. And then he does the work. It's the diary writing, it's the physiotherapy, and also a little bit of therapy, and also taking his meds, and he's working towards it, like getting better and feeling normal. And you can see the dog picture again just popping up, and while he's there, he's like looking at the scenery and it's nice, and Luke joins him. But then at the end scene, we can see the wolf is also there.
So the takeaway is that, the wolf actually is the representation of him and his childhood. Hence, we are able to identify that when his father actually told him that he used to wear a wolf costume every single Halloween. And we actually saw that when we rewinded back to a scene whereby now we can actually see two of him sitting in that couch watching that video where it was him and the wolf. Now we can see that actually him, because now there's two of him. And then at the end where we see them sitting in the bench just watching the scenery, it's him, the wolf, and his boyfriend, meaning that he is now learning to live with his past. He is now dealing or dealt with his past, and now he's living with it, because in actual fact we can't change the past, we can't erase it, so all we have to do is live with it and heal and move on. So yes, that was my ending explain of Hypochondriac. And you know what, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on my next video, which will be a really interesting movie. So yeah, it's Room for Rewinds on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Bye.